The Vexor Imperium had spent 3,000 years conquering star systems. 400 worlds had fallen before their fleets. Entire civilizations had surrendered at the mere sight of their warships. Their military doctrine had been perfected over millennia, their weapons tested on countless battlefields, and their supreme commander Thraxus had never known defeat. So when Imperium's long-range scouts identified a new species in a system called Sol, Thraxus saw it as just another addition to his empire. The locals called themselves humans. They had barely left their home planet a few generations ago. Their technology was primitive by galactic standards. This would be easy. Thraxus recorded his declaration of war with all the ceremony the Imperium demanded. He wore his finest armor, stood before flags of 400 conquered worlds, and spoke the words that brought entire civilizations to their knees. People of Earth, his voice boomed across every frequency humans use for communication. The Vexor Imperium has deemed your system worthy of absorption into our great empire. Resistance is futile. Surrender is inevitable. You have been warned. He ended the broadcast and smiled. By tomorrow, their leaders would be begging for mercy. On Earth, the message arrived at the United Nations Communication Center at 3 a.m. Tom Miller was working the night shift, half asleep with his third cup of coffee going cold on his desk. The computer pinged with new incoming transmission. Tom clicked it open, watched about 30 seconds of Thraxus's speech, and yawned. Another one, he muttered to himself. Tom had been working this job for 5 years. Every week, someone sent the UN a crazy message. Doomsday cults, conspiracy theorists, hackers try and be funny. This one had pretty good special effects. He'd give them that. The alien costume looked expensive. Tom dragged the file into a folder labeled Cranks and Threats and went back to scrolling through his phone. By morning, someone had leaked the video online. Within hours, it had 10 million views. People loved it. The comments section exploded with jokes. This alien really thought he did something with that speech. Bro sounds like he's been practicing in the mirror for weeks. The dramatic pause before inevitable is sending me. Someone made a remix of Thraxus's voice with a popular song that got 20 million views. A pizza chain jumped on the trend and tweeted, "Our pizza is inevitable." Their engagement went through the roof. By evening, people had moved on to arguing about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Thraxus's declaration of war was forgotten, buried under a dozen new trending topics. Meanwhile, 5 billion miles from Earth, Kate Johnson was having the worst day of her career. Kate ran a mining operation in the Kuiper Belt, that ring of ice and rock beyond Neptune, where mining companies harvested water and minerals. She'd been doing this job for 12 years. It was hard, dangerous work, but it paid well, and Kate liked being her own boss out here. Today, everything was going wrong. 2 of her drilling rigs had broken down. The replacement parts shipment was delayed. Her crew was already behind schedule, and corporate was breathing down her neck about quotas. She needed to pull 3,000 tons of ice this week, and they were barely at 2,000. Then her radar operator, a kid named Danny, called from the sensor station. "Boss, we got company." Big company. Kate pulled up the display and felt her headache get worse. Thousands of unknown ships had just appeared in her sector. They weren't broadcasting proper identification codes. They weren't following traffic patterns. They were just sitting there, blocking the main flight lane her crew used to transport ice back to processing stations. Kate grabbed her radio. "This is Mining Station 7 Bravo to unidentified vessels. You're in an active work zone. Clear the flight lanes immediately or file for a navigation permit with Sol System Traffic Control." The response came back in heavily accented English. "This system now belongs to the Vexor Imperium. We claim all resources for our empire. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Kate closed her eyes and counted to 10. She did not have time for this nonsense. "Listen, I don't know what kind of prank this is, but I've got quotas to hit. You want to be here. Fill out Form 7B with traffic control. Processing takes 6 to 8 weeks. Now move your ships before someone crashes into you." There was silence for a moment. Then the voice came back, angry now. "You dare defy the Imperium? We will show you our power." Kate saw the weapons fire on her sensors half a second before the alarm started screaming. The The idiots were actually shooting at her station. The automated defense grid activated instantly. It wasn't even a weapon system, really. Just shields designed to stop the debris and micrometeorites that were constant hazards in the Kuiper Belt. When you're drilling into ice rocks traveling at thousands of miles per hour, you need serious protection. The Vexor weapons hit the shields and bounced off. But the energy had to go somewhere. It reflected back toward the alien fleet. Kate watched the display in disbelief as 17 of the alien ships simply exploded. Danny, did we just... I think our debris shields just killed them, boss. Kate put her head in her hands. Get me corporate on the line. We got an industrial accident to report. She spent the next 4 hours filling out incident reports, while her crew watched thousands more alien ships just sitting there, apparently too shocked to move. Back on Earth, a minor news site mentioned it briefly. Mining mishap in outer system. No injuries reported. It appeared on page 9, right after an article about a celebrity's new haircut. Nobody paid much attention. Supreme Commander Thraxus sat in his command ship and watched the replay of the Kuiper Belt disaster for the 10th time. 17 ships, destroyed by a mining station's safety equipment. The footage had leaked to his officers. He could hear them whispering. This was unacceptable. The Imperium had never been humiliated like this. Not in 3,000 years. Thraxus made his decision. He would commit half his fleet to a direct assault on Mars, humanity's first colony world. 3,000 warships would turn that red planet into dust. Then Earth would understand the price of defiance. He gave the order, and 3,000 ships entered faster-than-light travel toward Mars. What Thraxus didn't know, what he had no way of knowing, was that Mars Defense Force was where humanity sent soldiers who needed easy assignments. Young recruits fresh out of training, veterans recovering from injuries, officers who'd messed up and needed a quiet posting to get their careers back on track. The running joke in Earth's military was simple. If you got assigned to Mars, you'd either just started or really screwed up. Nothing ever happened on Mars. The most exciting thing that happened in a typical month was when someone's coffee maker broke. Lieutenant Jake Peterson was 3 weeks out of basic training. He was 22 years old and had joined the military because college was expensive and his guidance counselor said it would look good on a resume. He'd never expected to see combat. Nobody did at Mars. Jake was sitting in the defense station cafeteria, eating something that was supposed to be meatloaf but tasted like cardboard, when the alarm started blaring. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Jake dropped his fork. His hands started shaking. This couldn't be real. Nothing ever happened on Mars. He ran to his station, nearly tripping over his own feet. His commanding officer, Captain Lisa Grant, was already there, holding a coffee mug that said World's Okayest Captain. Lisa was 45 and had been in the service for 20 years. She'd done real tours in the asteroid belt, hunting pirates. Mars was her semi-retirement posting. She sipped her coffee and looked at the sensor display, showing 3,000 enemy ships approaching. Well, she said calmly, that's new. Captain. Jake's voice cracked. What do we do? Lisa set down her coffee. We do our jobs, Peterson. Everyone, get to your stations. Weapons free. Try not to hit each other. These things happen closer than you'd think. Jake strapped into his weapons console, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. He'd trained for this, but training and reality were very different things. His hands fumbled over the controls. Next to him, another young recruit named Chris was breathing too fast. We're all gonna die. Oh, God, we're all gonna die. Shut up, Chris, someone else said. You're making it worse. Lisa's voice came through calm and steady. All right, kids, listen up. See those ships? Our sensors say their hulls are made of some kind of titanium ceramic composite. Sounds fancy. Our railguns will punch through it like wet paper. Pick your targets. Fire when ready. Jake's training took over. His shaking hands steadied. He locked onto the nearest enemy ship, said a quick prayer, and squeezed a trigger. The railgun fired. A solid metal slug accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed shot toward the target. Jake watched the screen in confusion. The slug hit the first ship, went straight through it, hit a second ship, then a third, fourth, fifth, sixth. All 6 ships exploded in sequence like fireworks. Captain? Jake's voice was small. I think my targeting system is broken. It's showing 6 kills, but I only fired once. Lisa didn't even look up from her coffee. That's normal, Peterson. Their armor is pretty thin. Watch your backdrop, though. You'll hit friendlies if you're not careful about what's behind your target. Their armor is thin? Jake stared at a screen where 6 destroyed ships were now just debris clouds. Very thin, Lisa confirmed. All right, everyone, keep firing. Stay calm. This is basically just target practice. For the next 4 hours, Mars Defense Force methodically destroyed the Vexor fleet. The young recruits stopped panicking after the first 20 minutes when they realized the enemy ships couldn't even penetrate Mars's standard defensive shields. Chris, who'd been convinced they were all going to die, was now laughing every time he hit a target. This is like that video game I played in high school. Stay focused, Lisa reminded them, though she sounded amused. By the end of it, the Vexor had lost 2,000 ships. Mars Defense Force had lost exactly 0. Not a single human casualty. Not even a damaged ship. The biggest problem was that the debris field was now creating navigational hazards around Mars orbit. Lisa filed a complaint with Sol System Traffic Control about the wreckage while her crew sat in shocked silence. That's it, Jake said. We just won. Yep. Lisa finished her coffee. Welcome to the military, Peterson. Lots of paperwork after every engagement. Start writing your incident report. Back on Earth, the battle made the evening news for exactly 90 seconds, squeezed between the weather forecast and sport highlights. A reporter caught the Pentagon spokesperson leaving the building. Can you comment on the engagement at Mars? The spokesperson barely paused. Mars training exercise proceeded normally. No casualties. Standard operations. But, sir, 2,000 enemy ships. No casualties, the spokesperson repeated and walked away. On Mars, Jake Peterson sat at his console, staring at his after-action report. 6 enemy ships destroyed with 1 shot. He still didn't quite believe it had happened. Supreme Commander Thraxus sat alone in his command chamber, staring at intercepted human communications displayed across multiple screens. His hands were shaking. In 3,000 years of Imperium history, no commander had ever lost half their fleet in 2 engagements. And the worst part, the part that made his blood run cold, was what he was reading now. The mining station that destroyed 17 ships hadn't been armed. Those were safety shields. Standard equipment for working in asteroid fields. Mars hadn't been defended by Earth's real military. Those were trainees. Fresh recruits doing basic training exercises. And Earth, the actual home world with 4 billion humans, hadn't even noticed they were at war. Thraxus called for his intelligence officer, a veteran analyst named Vex who had served the Imperium for 40 years. Tell me everything about this planet, Thraxus demanded. Everything. Vex brought files that made Thraxus wish he'd never asked. Supreme Commander, our initial assessment was incomplete. Catastrophically incomplete. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Explain, Thraxus said, though part of him didn't want to know. Vex pulled up images of Earth. The gravity on their planet is 0.98 standard. That's nearly double what Vex revolved in. A human child could crush our strongest warrior simply by sitting on them. They don't even notice this gravity. They consider it normal. Thraxus felt sick. Continue. The atmosphere contains 21% oxygen. That concentration is toxic to most species. Humans breathe it constantly. Their bodies are adapted to what would poison us. The images change, showing massive creatures with teeth and claws. For millions of years, humans were prey. These animals hunted them. Humans had no natural armor, no claws, no venom. So they develop intelligence and persistence. They can track prey for days without stopping. They can survive injuries that would kill most species. Their bodies simply refuse to quit. Thraxus was leaning forward now, horrified but unable to look away. The weather on Earth kills thousands of them every year, Vex continued. Massive storms that would devastate our cities. Freezing temperatures. extreme heat, earthquakes that shatter entire regions. And what do humans do? They build stronger houses. They create warning systems. They stay there and adapt. This can't be real, Thraxus whispered. Vex pulled up more files. It gets worse, Commander. Look at their recreational activities. The screens filled with videos. Humans throwing themselves out of aircraft for fun. Humans climbing mountains where the air was so thin they needed artificial breathing equipment. Humans hitting each other repeatedly in organized combat sports while crowds cheered. They do this voluntarily, Vex said, for entertainment. This video shows their football. They slam into each other at full speed wearing minimal armor. Broken bones are common. They consider this a children's game. Thraxus watch a human get tackled, hit the ground hard, get up, and keep playing. And their military? We haven't fought their military yet. Vex said quietly. Mars was a training facility. The personnel there had been in service for less than a month. Some had never seen combat before that day. The command chamber fell silent, except for the hum of computers. How did we not know this? Thraxus finally asked. They're new to space, Commander. Only a few generations out of their home system. Most galactic databases don't have detailed information on them yet. We thought they were like other species. Soft, easy to conquer. Vex paused. We were very wrong. Meanwhile, back on Earth, people were having a great time with the whole situation. Mike Davis ran a popular blog about space exploration and science fiction. When he heard about the Mars battle, he couldn't resist writing about it. His post went viral within hours. Aliens picked a fight with a species that looked at wolves, the apex predators that hunted us for thousands of years, and said, let's make those into pets. We created dogs. We invented pizza because we got bored with regular food. We split atoms just to see what would happen. We're not locked in the universe with them. They're locked in the universe with us. The post exploded. 40,000 likes in the first hour. Comments poured in. Humans really said everything is a weapon if you're creative enough, and the aliens found out the hard way. They attacked a mining station and got deleted by the space equivalent of a hard hat and safety goggles. Imagine being an alien species and discovering humans made friends with bacteria that live in our guts and help us digest food. We're walking ecosystems. Someone made a comparison chart showing human normal activities versus what would kill most alien species. Skydiving, scuba diving, eating spicy food, running marathons. The list went on. Earth's governments were taking things slightly more seriously, but not much. President Amanda Brooks held a press conference that was broadcast worldwide. She stood at the podium looking tired, like this was just another item on a very long to-do list. We've asked the Vexor Imperium politely to leave our solar system, she said. They have not responded to our diplomatic communications. If they continue hostile actions, we will be forced to respond with less diplomatic measures. Now, if we can move on to the infrastructure bill, that's actually important. Reporters shouted questions. Madam President, are we at war? Amanda sighed. We're in a situation that requires military readiness. I wouldn't call it a war. Wars require two sides actually fighting. So far, it's been more like pest control. Next question. What if they attack Earth directly? Then our planetary defense systems will handle it. Those systems are built to stop planet-killing asteroids. I'm confident they can handle some angry aliens. Now, seriously, can we talk about the infrastructure bill? We got bridges that actually need attention. In his command ship, Thraxus watched the press conference with his remaining officers. When it ended, nobody spoke. Finally, one officer found his voice. Commander, what do we do? Thraxus looked at the tactical display, showing his remaining 3,000 ships. Then he looked at Earth, hanging in space like a beautiful blue marble, completely undefended because the humans didn't think they needed to defend it. I'm open to suggestions, he said quietly. Supreme Commander Thraxus stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at his remaining forces. 3,000 ships. That was all he had left of the mighty armada that had terrorized 400 worlds. Pride, anger, and desperation mixed together in his mind. He couldn't go home in defeat. The Imperium would strip him of his rank, maybe his life. His family name would be ruined forever. No, there was only one option left. He would throw everything at Earth itself. Humanity's homeworld. If he could force their surrender, maybe he could salvage something from this disaster. All ships. He broadcast his fleet. We attack Earth. Prepare for immediate faster-than-light jump. His officers looked at each other nervously, but nobody argued. What choice did they have? 3,000 Vexor warships emerged from faster-than-light travel in Earth's orbit. For a moment, Thraxus felt hope. The planet hung there, blue and white and beautiful, with no visible defenses. Maybe the humans had been bluffing this whole time. Then every alarm on his ship started screaming at once. High above Earth, in orbit so distant they were barely visible, satellites that had been dormant for 30 years suddenly woke up. Power cores that had been in standby mode roared to full capacity. Weapons that hadn't fired in decades began tracking targets with perfect precision. The planetary defense grid had gone active. In Colorado, deep inside Cheyenne Mountain, Commander Robert Hayes was having lunch. He brought a sandwich from home, turkey and cheese on wheat bread. His wife made it that morning, and it was pretty good. He was taking his time, enjoying it. The command center was quiet. It was always quiet. Nothing ever happened here. Robert had been stationed at Planetary Defense for 7 years. The most exciting thing that ever occurred was when someone's kid visited for Take Your Child to Work Day. Then Lieutenant Barnes burst through the door, nearly tripping over her own feet. "Sir, Planetary Defense Grid just went hot. Multiple hostile contacts entering upper atmosphere." Robert looked up from his sandwich. He chewed slowly, swallowed, took a sip of water. Automated response? Barnes was breathing hard, her face flushed. "Yes, sir. System is engaging autonomously. Estimates time to completion at 18 minutes. Robert nodded and took another bite of his sandwich. "All right, let me know when it's over. But, sir, shouldn't we—" "Barnes, the system is automated for a reason. Either it works or it doesn't. Us staring at screens won't change anything. Sit down. Breathe. We'll know soon enough." The planetary defense grid had been built 40 years ago, back when humanity first started seriously exploring their solar system. Scientists had discovered they were alone. No alien neighbors. No ancient civilizations. Just humans and empty space. That realization had terrified them. If they were alone, there was nobody to call for help. Nobody to warn them about dangers. So they built a defense grid in a fit of paranoid preparation. The system was designed to stop extinction-level threats. Asteroids big enough to end civilization. Solar flares that could sterilize a planet. Anything that could kill billions of people. The weapons were massive. Each satellite carried enough firepower to vaporize a mountain. The targeting computers could track thousands of objects simultaneously. The power cores could run for 100 years without maintenance. And for 30 years, the grid had sat in orbit, dormant and waiting, quietly maintaining itself with automated repair drones. Now it was awake, and it was very, very good at its job. Thraxus watched in horror as beams of concentrated energy lanced out from satellites he hadn't even known were there. Each beam hit with the force of a small nuclear weapon. His ship's shields, which had protected them through 3,000 years of conquest, lasted approximately 2 seconds. The first wave of fire destroyed 800 ships in 30 seconds. Evasive maneuvers. Thraxus screamed. Return fire. His ships scattered, trying to avoid the defensive fire. It didn't matter. The targeting computers adjusted instantly. Beams tracked ships through evasive maneuvers, through attempts to hide behind debris, through desperate faster-than-light micro-jumps. The Vexor weapons fired back, hitting the defense satellites with everything they had. The satellite shields absorbed the damage without even flickering. These systems have been built to withstand solar radiation and micrometeorite impacts at relativistic speeds. Vexor weapons were annoying at best. In Colorado, Robert finished his sandwich and checked the timer. 14 minutes had passed. "Status?" he asked. Barnes was staring at her screen, her mouth hanging open. "Sir, we've destroyed 2,800 enemy vessels. Estimated time to completion, 2 minutes. Any damage to our systems?" "None, sir." Shields holding at 98%. They're barely scratching us. Robert nodded. Good. Make sure we get all the debris cleaned up afterward. Don't want it interfering with satellite orbits. In orbit, Thraxus watched his fleet die. Ship after ship exploded into clouds of superheated gas. His officers were screaming reports, but he couldn't hear them anymore. The sound of his own heartbeat drowned everything else out. 16 minutes after the battle started. It was over. Thraxus's flagship was the only ship left. The humans had stopped firing. He understood why. They were giving him a chance to surrender. With shaking hands, Thraxus opened a communication channel to Earth's United Nations headquarters. His voice came out broken and small. We surrender. Unconditionally. Please, just stop. There was a long pause. Then a woman's voice came through the channel. Hello? Oh, sorry about that. Had my mic muted. You're surrendering? Okay, hold on a second. In the background, Thraxus could hear someone eating chips. The crunching sound was very distinct. Beth, can you handle this? I'm on lunch break. Yeah, I got it. Sir, we'll draft surrender terms and send them over. Can you hold, please? Before Thraxus could respond, music started playing. Soft, generic elevator music. He'd been put on hold. Thraxus sat down heavily in his command chair and put his head in his hands. The mighty Vexor Imperium, conquerors of 400 worlds, had just been put on hold like a customer calling about a billing problem. The music kept playing. 6 months after what the Vexor called a great catastrophe, and what humans called that space thing from last year, life had returned to normal. Well, normal for everyone except the Vexor. The war, if you could even call it that, had lasted less than a week. It took up exactly one paragraph in Earth's updated history textbooks, squeezed between a section about asteroid mining regulations and a chapter about climate engineering on Venus. Most students skimmed right past it. The Vexor Imperium no longer existed as an independent power. The 400 worlds they conquered over 3 millennia were now part of something called the Sole Economic Zone. Earth hadn't wanted an empire. They just wanted trading partners and to make sure nobody tried to blow up any more mining stations. Supreme Commander Thraxus now lived in Geneva, working as a consultant for Earth's military. His official title was Galactic Relations Advisor. His actual job was to sit in meetings and tell human generals about other alien species they might encounter someday. He was paid very well. The humans were generous with money, probably because they felt a little bad about destroying his entire fleet. They'd set him up in a nice apartment with a view of the lake. They gave him a monthly stipend that would have made him rich by Vexor standards. None of it helped with the nightmares. Twice a week, Thraxus saw a therapist named Dr. Helen Rodriguez. She specialized in combat-related stress disorders. Most of her patients were soldiers who'd seen real war. Thraxus was her first patient who'd lost a war to a species that hadn't even been trying. Tell me about the dreams again, Dr. Rodriguez said during their latest session. Thraxus stared at his hands. I see the defense grid activating, the beams, the ships exploding, and then I hear that music, that terrible, bland music they played when they put me on hold. The elevator music? Yes. Thraxus shuddered. I wake up hearing it sometimes. Dr. Rodriguez made notes. She was good at her job and never made Thraxus feel weak for needing help. You experienced a significant trauma. It's normal to have these responses. We'll keep working through it. Back on the 400 former Imperium worlds, the cultural shift was dramatic. The Vexor language had to add new words. Their old word for human just meant unknown species from Sol system. Now they had multiple words, each with different connotations. The formal word translated roughly to the people who cannot be defeated. The informal word, the one kids use, translated to nightmare species. There was also a slang term that meant something like unreasonable monster that doesn't know it a monster, but that one was considered rude to say out loud. Vexor schools completely rewrote their curriculum. Where they once taught military history and conquest strategies, they now taught human customs and how to trade peacefully. The very first lesson in every English language textbook had the same warning printed in bold letters. Remember, Humans think their world is normal. They think they are gentle. They call themselves a peaceful species. Never, ever correct them about this. Just smile and agree. Tourism had become a new industry. Vexor citizens could now apply for visas to visit the Sol system. The most popular destination wasn't Earth, which required extensive paperwork and quarantine procedures. It was the Kuiper Belt, specifically Mining Station 7 Bravo, where Kate Johnson had accidentally started the war by turning on her debris shields. The station was now a historical landmark. They built a small museum in the docking section. Tourists could see the actual control room where Kate had radioed corporate about the industrial accident. They sold T-shirts that said, "I survived 7 Bravo." Even though nobody there had actually been in danger, Kate herself had become an accidental celebrity. News crews wanted interviews. Documentary producers called her weekly. A publishing company offered her a book deal. She turned most of them down. She'd done one interview with a major network and spent the whole time looking uncomfortable. "I really don't understand what the big deal was," she told the interviewer. "I was just trying to hit my quarterly targets. And you know what? Corporate still gave me grief about all the paperwork. 27 different incident reports. I spent more time filing forms than I did actually mining ice that week." The interviewer tried to make it dramatic. "But you single-handedly destroyed 17 enemy warships." Kate shrugged. "They ran into my shields. That's on them. Maybe if they'd filed for proper permits like I told them to, none of this would have happened." The interview got 12 million views. People love how completely unimpressed Kate was with her own role in history. Lieutenant Jake Peterson had it worse. He couldn't escape the fame. The military had labeled him the accidental hero. His 6-ship kill was now taught in every military academy as an example of proper backdrop awareness and weapon efficiency. Jake hated it. He gave speeches at graduations where everyone treated him like some kind of tactical genius. In reality, he still wasn't entirely sure how he'd hit 6 ships with one shot. He'd been aiming for one and got lucky with the angle. "I panicked and pulled the trigger," he'd told his therapist. That's the real story. "I was terrified and I got lucky." But nobody wanted to hear that story. They wanted a hero. On Earth, life moved on. People talked about the war the same way they talked about old sports games. "Remember when those aliens showed up?" Someone would say at a party, and everyone would laugh, and then they'd move on to discussing something more interesting. In the Kuiper Belt, Kate Johnson was back at work. She had a new crew, fresh recruits who were nervous about working at the historic site. "Listen up," Kate told them on their first day. "I don't care about the history. I care about quotas. We need 4,000 tons of ice this month. Stay focused. Follow safety protocols. And for the love of everything, if someone's blocking the flight lanes, just file the proper forms. Don't make it complicated." Some things never changed.